Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. This is the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. It is me, Joe Pisapia. Happy January, everybody. It's time to do some mock drafting. This is my first mock draft on the YouTube channel. I've got goosebumps. Check it out. I swear they're under the sweatshirt. I swear they are. And today we're going to be doing a 15-team Roto 5x5 old school style for you. So I hope everyone's excited. I'm here with my Fantasy Pros friends, Joe Orrico, Kelly Kirby, and the Welsh. Of course, I can't do a show without the Welsh. It's in my contract, and we're going to be going through here using our mock draft software. It's the way to go, and if you haven't run any of these before, well, you're crazy. You need to be using the draft simulator and the multi-user draft that is out there right now. So today's mock draft you're going to see here on the YouTube channel is done by using our Draft Wizards mock draft lobby. You know, just like you're going to see today, the multi-user drafts will allow you to practice quick, fun mock drafts against real and CPU opponents. So you can use the easy-to-use interface as our mock draft simulator you'll see right here. And while the mock draft lobby isn't available for public quite yet, our mock draft simulator tool is ready. I've been doing about 6 or 7 of these this morning before I got to the show today, trying to prepare. So I'm sure it's all going to go completely wrong. And you can do this at fantasypros.com/draftwizard. Again, that's fantasypros.com/draftwizard. It's fast. It's free. You can undo your picks, redo your picks. You can use the pick predictor. You can use all the tools at your fingertips. And Welsh, I know, for you, draft season kind of never ends. I'm very excited to see you. It feels like baseball season is here and upon us. I'm still waiting for Pete Alonso news, but today there's a passing of a baseball legend, Bob Uecker, and I just want to mention at the top of the show, I imagine all of us have some fond memories of Bob. For me, it's actually driving around and hearing him call the game and for the first time, and it was so weird because it felt like I was watching Major League in the car. I was in the Milwaukee area, and it was pretty wild. Welsh, any Bob Uecker memories you want to share before the mock draft today?
I actually always wish I could have met him. I'm out here in Arizona, and their spring training facility is like not that far from me, and I go to it a decent amount. So like it's not uncommon that I would like run into random people. Happened last year. I was like at the Padres, and it's like, oh, there's Jake PV. There's Hideo Nomo, like crazy stuff like that. I never got to have that. Major League, definitely. And, maybe if you're non-Milwaukee, like that's probably the biggest piece. I will say, though, something that stands out is there was this video I saw. I want to say I saw it this year. And it was like Christian Yelich talking about how important Bob Uecker was. And I want to say there was also like a rookie video. I guess what I'm getting at is like the players and the excitement they've had about meeting Bob Uecker, how important it was. Oh, you know what one of them was? I think I remember now. It was with Paul Skeens going to Milwaukee this year. He got to go meet, and they introduced Paul Skeens to Bob Uecker, and he was like nervous, and he was super excited. So like that these young players that probably didn't actually, like truly like grow up. Like I'm not 50 or 60 like Joe, but if I were that old and I had grown up my whole life with him, that would be even more important. But these young, like, 20-year-old, 25, even 30-year-old guys that revere him, that stands out to me.
Kelly Kirby, probably nobody more anxious to turn the page to baseball season than you after that Vikings playoff
That is correct, yeah.
loss. Is that correct?
But I have a Bob Uecker story.
All right.
I was 9 when Major League came out, and my parents knew I was so baseball obsessed. So they let me watch it, and I thought he was the funniest guy. But the part that stuck with me is that I quoted that movie incessantly. And if you've seen it, a 9-year-old should not be quoting that movie incessantly. I mean,
I disagree. I respectfully disagree. I think it's hilarious. I think it's adorable. And especially a 9-year-old girl quoting Bob Uecker. My favorite is when he's looking for the stats. He's like, I can't find it. To hell with it. Like, that's my favorite thing at the end of the thing. Joe Orrico is sitting there in the dark praying at some point that the Blue Jays will extend Vlad Guerrero Jr. I know you're in your silent retreat. You've decided to take a moment and do the show with us today. Any Uecker stories for you at the top of the show before we kick things off? I know everybody wants to get to the draft, but man, Bob Uecker, it's like the soul of baseball.
I am the youth on the show here, so I didn't grow up with Bob Uecker. Didn't see Major League when it came out because I wasn't around yet, but I have heard quotes from it my entire life. It's been one of my more revered baseball movies, not like all movies, but in terms of sports flicks, if you're trying to just laugh your head off for a couple hours, Major League is right up there. I know that line, just outside, he went for the corner. Like, my dad uses that line like at least once a week. So it's a sad one for sure. He is a legend of the game. But yeah, even though we're doing a draft, you have to And when Willie Mays died, we were on leading off, or you guys were on leading off, and you take a moment to acknowledge it, because we are doing fantasy content, but the actual baseball is the most important part, of course.
A young guy, by the way, did not do the line correctly.
He did. I was going to say it.
Yeah, we all pointed that out. You didn't even do the line correctly.
All right. Give me a break here, guys.
We're going to haze the young guy the rest of the draft. All right, again, 5x5 on the mock draft software. We're going to kick things off just to let everybody know where we are here in this draft in terms of our locations. Joe Orrico went Joe Pisapia, and he took a top pick. He's at the 2 spot. Then you go a little bit further down. Welsh is at 105. He's always very cagey. He knows exactly where he wants to be and what he wants to do. He's going to be taking at 105. So clearly he has 5 guys that he likes, and he's very happy to take. Kirby and I, the tough ones around these parts, we're a little bit lower down. Kirby at 13, Joey P at 15. I'm excited to start this mock draft. I assume Ohtani's going to be first off the board. So Joe Orrico, what are you hoping to get here after Ohtani is gone?
Well, my thought process was I'll get either Ohtani or Witt. You never know. Sometimes Witt will go first, but I will happily settle on Bobby Witt there at number 2, settling for the guy who could be number 1 overall. Not really settling, but I'll take it happily.
Poor baby settling. All right, Bobby Witt goes second to Orrico. Then we have Aaron Judge. Paul Skeens going fourth. Ooh, the lolly. Look at that. Welsh, you're up for 105. What do you have?
Yeah, and I'll point out too, the reason we can even do this is because of this software, not to like plug it again, but 15, if we had all our listeners, which we are going to do mocks this season with listeners, no way we could do a 15 team, but we could do 4 of us drafting, and then the AI system goes through it. Yeah, there are definitely a couple guys I like here. Mookie's a great value. Juan Soto's a great value. I'm going to do this again, though, and I did do this in a previous mock draft because I've got him higher. Elly De La Cruz. I've said I think there are 5 big guys. If you want to go great production without a position, Ohtani, you want to go all-encompassing, you go Witt. You want all the power, you go Judge. You want all the stolen bases, you go Elly De La Cruz. So I'm going to go with Elly at the 5 spot.
All right, so Elly at the 5 spot is gone. Before we get to Kelly's pick here, too, just to remind everybody, we've got 1 catcher on the roster, first, second, third, short. We've got 5 outfielders, a util, and then we have 9 pitcher spots. 2 of them are mandatory RP. And then we have some open bench spots, too. I think we're doing 6 today. So, Kelly Kirby, who's the first pick for you after De La Cruz? We have Juan Soto, Mookie Betts, Jose Ramirez, Kyle Tucker, now a Chicago Cub, Gunnar Henderson, Ronald Acuna, and Mr. Alvarez at 12.
I was really hoping he'd make it to me. So I am going to take. I'm going to take Tatis, even though Skubal is very, very tempting.
Yes, he's very tempting, but everybody knows I don't want to take pitching that early. So Tatis goes, Skubal goes. That's good. I don't have to worry about it.
You're not going to have to worry about it even. So
it's fine. He goes, that's fine. I'm good. I'm fine. Everything's fine. All right. So looking at this right here, and because I'm with Joe Orrico today, I'm just going to do it, Joe. I'm going to take the guy in the contract here. So give me Vlad Guerrero Jr. And looking around here, I know the suggestions are telling me Corbin, Carroll, but I'm going to go ahead and be a bit of a homer here. I'm going to take Francisco Lindor. I'm still on a high from the Mets being relevant. I have to take these moments when they come because they don't come very often. So Corbin, Carroll, very tempting here, especially in the extra outfielders. Will I live to regret this decision? Quite possibly. Make sure you tune into the rest of the show to find out. All right, after I go ahead and select Lindor, Corbin, Carroll, of course, goes right off the board. Wonky Penguin, you're up next.
Well, I was really hoping Lindor would fall, and I had a small brain freeze that I forgot that you were a Mets fan, so obviously that was going to happen, but I thought maybe you'd...
You would think that would go the other way.
How could you forget?
Look, how could Joe, I try to forget a lot of things about Joe. So I would say this one's kind of tough because Julio is currently at the top. And I go back and forth. I don't remember which one of you I had a conversation with where about whether or not Julio and Corbin, I think it was Welsh, whether they were busts. And I truly don't believe that he is, but I also, in the same voice, do not want to have him on my team. So I guess that's saying something. I'm going to go a little bit off, and I'm going to take Jarren Duran because I really, really like. Okay. I like his makeup. I like how he can contribute in 5, and I trust him just a bit more than Chourio. So.
Amazing, because Duran last year was one of our favorite sleeper guys, quote unquote. That was look, this guy can be a league winner if he performs as well as he possibly can, and he did last year. And now to see him go in the second round is kind of crazy. It's great. Julio goes right after at 204, then at 205. Bryce Harper, Freddie Freeman, Jackson Chourio, Zach Wheeler, the third pitcher off the board. Trey Turner goes next, then Ketel Marte right before the Welsh. All right, Welsh, What do you have, and what are you hoping that the bots maybe give you here?
I will say I am actually a little bit bummed here because Jarren Duran specifically was a player I thought could fall back to me because I did not think some of the guys I would have taken Trey Turner. Obviously, I wanted Churio or I wanted Harper. So like the Duran thing really screwed me here.
10 seconds.
There's a couple ways that I can go. I'm going to do this. Oh, am I going to do this? Yes, I'm going to do this. Seconds. Okay, I got it. I'm going to take my pitcher because I know I got Orrico. Yeah, exactly. I got Orrico there. I want to get Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet going to be at the near tippy top of strikeouts. There's tons of wind support. I'm a little bit worried about where the offense or where the ballpark on the hitter side is going to affect him, but it's ridiculous stuff plus. And I know he was not going to come back to me. He's like my SP. I want to say I have him at 3 or 4 right now. Mm-hmm. So, I had to get him there, even though I would have preferred to kind of wait a tiny bit, but I didn't love any of the picks around me. So Joe, suck it.
Yeah, there you go. And just for everybody listening here, he means Orrico. That, just make sure we have the right Joe that you're talking trash to.
Right,
Jazz Chisholm. That's right. Jazz
Chisholm. Do it with me. Orrico. 1, 2, 3.
Suck it. All right, let's go to the next one. Jazz Chisholm, then Manny Machado, then Joe Orrico. You are up here at 214, and it seems only fitting you take one of Welsh's guys.
Yeah, I mean, at that point of the draft, if you heard me, you heard my reaction. I wanted Crochet. Welsh knew I wasn't going to let him get back to him. I think Merrill, maybe it feels a little weird seeing him in the second round after just one season, but he was so great. He got better as the year went on. All the data is fantastic. The lineup is good. There's nothing to fault him for. So as much as it might feel weird, I think Merrill is worthy of that back end of the second round. So happy to take him there.
All right, so Jackson Merrill goes in at the turn here at 215. Chris Sale, followed by Matt Olson in the third round beginning. Austin Riley at 302 to you, Joe Orrico. So you got your third baseman, your shortstop, and another shortstop eligible / outfielder here in Merrill.
Yeah, Riley, I'm kind of just banking on that bounce back. The data was still mostly really good last year. I'm hoping that we get a healthy Braves team because it seemed like everybody was hurt or disappointed last year. But the second round player usually who I'm getting in the third. So I'll take that slight discount off a down year for him.
Taking the discount. By the way, I think the walkout song for Garrett Crochet should be the Sweater Song by Weezer. Anyone agree? Disagree? Pull the strand as I walk away.
I don't know.
If you want to destroy my sweater, whoa, whoa, whoa. All right, let's move on. Ozzy Albies goes next, then Willie Adams goes next, then Rafael Devers to the Welsh. So good value there for Devers 305.
I'm stoked. That's who I was consider taking in the second round. Olsen was there. I'm not quite as big there, but Devers, Riley are who I was staring at. So absolute perfect scenario for me. I get the pitcher without getting sniped, and I got the guy that I wanted in general in Rafael Devers. So I'm pretty stoked about it.
All right, Wonky's got a couple seconds. Make your pick, Wonky here. Corey Seager goes, then Garrett Cole, Logan Gilbert, Contreras, then at 310, Altuve, Corbin Burns, Schwarber, and then Wonky Penguin going pitcher. Let's talk about
I love Michael King, and I do not like every other pitcher that was around him. When they're telling like Blake Snell, George Kirby, I'm like, but I wanted a pitcher, and I really like King's makeup. I like his underlying numbers. When I was writing in his profile, I was just like, oh yeah, I think I should target this guy. And so yeah, I'm actually really pretty excited for him to be my SP1 in a 15-team league, which I have to keep reminding myself. And also I was laughing at the idea that Orrico would have had any idea what the Sweater Song was since it came out in like 1994. And,
yeah, well,
come on.
Weezer was a band in the 90s, Joe. A band in the 90s. They had albums and they were colors, blue, green.
Uncultured. I am not uncultured. All right.
Well, it's better than Erickson. I explained to him like who Kurt Cobain was one time. It was a whole big thing.
I'm gonna have to put on some Pinkerton here because I'm
that is my favorite Weezer. See,
go.
Joe, you just got some points there because Pinkerton, top notch. See, underrated album. All right, so after Wonky took Michael King, another one of our favorite pieces from last year. Look at that. Duran, Michael King, second round, third round. Ooh-wee. CJ Abrams goes next at 314. Then I double dipped in pitching. That's right. It's a 15-team league, and I want to get some durable starting pitchers. I want Dylan Cease, who goes out there, makes 30 starts every single year. Nobody does. That guy does. I want him on my team. And then, oh, man, I had to draft Blake Snell.
Oh, man.
Come on, man. I got to be on Joe's team. He's on the Dodgers now. Like, that's just ridiculous. So it was between him and Kirby. It was a tough sell. At the end of the day, it's roto categories. I want the Ks and I want the Ws. And look, man, still waiting for Seattle to figure out that offense. I know there's still offseason left. I don't care. Pete Alonso goes next at 402, and then back to you, Kelly.
Yeah,
I
took Yamamoto because he's also pitching for the Dodgers, and if he's able to stay healthy, right, which is kind of the question for everyone. But his numbers last year were solid until he went down, and I don't know. I just feel like a really good fantasy philosophy is just draft all the Dodgers, and then once they're all gone, then go for the next.
Not bad.
But yeah, so I like having him paired with King. I guess I'm going to go West Coast pitchers this year. So.
Can I set the Draft Wizard strategy to draft more Dodgers? That would be probably a good idea. Marcus Semien goes next, then George Kirby at 405, 406, Castillo, then Reagans, Michael Harris, overrated. Mark Vientos goes next. Look at my dude, 409. Then Royce Lewis right before Welsh. Welsh, Mr. Closer, there you go. You started the run. Let's talk about Emmanuel Clase.
Yeah, Clase is a pretty easy pick there, especially in the 4th round. This is Roto. We're not looking to punt head-to-head. I mean, you can if you want. People like to experiment with it. Head-to-head is a much higher propensity of punting, and saves would be the territory. But this is a saves league. This is a 15-team Roto. You're not going to do it. 4th round. Yeah, it is a smash pick for Emmanuel Clase.
All right, so Clase goes next. After that, we have Jacob deGrom going. Look at the buyback in on Team 4. Anthony Santander, maybe soon to be Blue Jay, who knows? And then Joe Orrico, did Welsh pressure you into taking a closer? This is a safe place, you could tell.
He did a little bit, but it's also a really nice value on Devin Williams. I've done a lot of 15-team drafts, and he's usually a 3rd round pick, somewhere in the middle of the 3rd, even sometimes late 2nd. So end of the 4th. Mm-hmm. I'll take it, absolutely, no question.
Bryce Miller at the turn at 415, 501, Pablo Lopez. Then you took Wyatt Langford, one of my favorite pieces to invest in. 5th round, that's pretty good value, Joe.
Yeah, for Langford, I wrote him up the other day just on my own site. I mean, the data was fantastic, and you guys are the football guys, he's like the Marvin Harrison Jr. of fantasy baseball. The expectations were so high, and everybody expected the world. Mm-hmm. And even though he put up a good season, he's still viewed as kind of a disappointment in some people's eyes. So I think that he could even push up higher and higher, even into the 3rd round. But beginning of the 5th, no question, Wyatt Langford is a great pick.
Okay, so Langford goes, and then after that, you've got Josh Hader, back to Zach Gallen, and then Welsh. You saw the Wyatt Langford, and you raised the James Wood.
I did James raise the James Wood. That's a good reference. I can't say it. Langford, I wanted. I absolutely wanted Wyatt Langford there, so I was just kind of like, oh, that's why I did that, because Langford 100% was the pick. And I got some question marks around batting average with Ellie, but I feel like I'm answering that with Devers. My problem is Langford, I feel better about it. And now I'm kind of back into maybe putting on a few questions with James Wood. So I'm comfortable with it. That was big power at speed. I think I can make do with it. I've kind of pushed pitching down a tiny bit, but if I wasn't getting Langford, I was raising the Wood, as you said.
Okay, there you go. I mean, this seems like a perfectly fine thing to say. I don't know why you're being weird about it at all. All right, let's continue on with the draft here and go through this draft board as it unfolds. We have James Wood going. Then we have Luis Robert, O'Neal Cruz. Sorry, Welsh, you couldn't get all the guys you want. Then you had, I couldn't put the Cruzes together again. Teoscar Hernandez goes to Team 8 at 508. Then Edwin Diaz, Mason Miller, a little closer run. Aaron Nola. Then we have Tanner Bybee at 512. Wonky Penguin, you sniped me. How dare you? Brent Rooker, a guy who's gone back-to-back 30 home runs at 112 ribbies. And guess what? Now he doesn't have to play in that giant ballpark. He's going to play in Sacramento.
I think I might be heading into the season as Brent Rooker's president of the fan club at this point. I might order a jersey if they have new jerseys. But yeah, I like them in Sacramento. I love him. I think his power is real, even at 30. It's just, and also he's just a really good Twitter follow. So I think that might also be influencing me, because that is definitely how you should draft a fantasy baseball team.
All right, so after Brent Rooker goes, then Marcell Ozuna. I get 2 picks, and I'm going outfield hit with them both here. Randy Arozarena, Brian Reynolds. I'm looking for a bounce back from Arozarena, just kind of, getting out of Tampa, cleared his head a little bit. Very good player here. Brian Reynolds, a guy who's very consistent, very underrated. And I wanted to double tap outfield here because I just felt like things were starting to get away from me a little bit in the outfield, and that's not a good thing when you're in a 5 active outfielder league with 15 teams. This is why you got to pay real close attention to that. After those 2 picks, Ryan Helsley goes next. Then Wonky Penguin, you went with a first baseman. now on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's talk about
I had Josh Naylor everywhere last year, and he obviously like way outperformed what I thought he was going to, just beyond everything. But I like him in Arizona. I like who he's batting behind, even though it's not Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan. I still feel like Carroll and Marte are decent to, bat around. But yeah, I know I'm not expecting last year's performance, but I'm okay with him holding down first base, and I'm hoping his batting average like comes back just a smidge.
I'm hoping he shows up to camp in better shape too, because at the end of the year he looks. I'm being honest here because
I know you are, but yeah.
Look, man, this is the thing we've seen with other players like Pablo Sandoval and a lot of great players, even Vlad Guerrero Jr. Right, like you got to be in a right frame of mind, focused and conditioned here. Josh Naylor is a tremendous player, but what you don't want is injuries to happen because a guy. I always say this in my wrestling podcast. It's one thing to work big, it's another thing to work heavy. And I was worried of Josh Naylor at the end of the year last year. So hopefully he shows up in the camp in good shape. That would be going a long way for making me feel good about him. But still, 6th round, great. Framber Valdez at 604, Cal Raleigh at 605, Freddie Peralta. Then we have Stephen Kwan, Logan Webb, Shota Imanaga, and Spencer Strider going next here. Welsh, you went with a first baseman who used to play in Arizona.
I wish you would have signed back, but guess what? Even better destination. We know that left side of the ballpark, that pull heavy stuff had Paredes back. It's held up Alex Bregman. Maybe, reasons why he hasn't signed some of the contract. You never know, but it's a beneficial ballpark. He's going from a hitter-friendly environment to another hitter-friendly environment with a bunch of guys that should be getting on base in front of him. Kind of a smash pick for Christian Walker. First base is thinning out. I could have taken Matt Olson in the second, but like getting Walker here, 35 plus homer potential, tons of RBI. Love it. And again, I'm trying to shore up some of that. I hope the batting average doesn't sink. This would be my biggest issue is I'd start sinking down in batting average, which I do
8 seconds
sometimes.
For your pick too. I don't want you to get skipped. All right. So Christian Walker goes, then Hunter Brown, one of my favorite values here. He's off the board. Zach Neto, Roki Sasaki goes to Joe Orrico. Let's talk about your picks in a second here. Profar at 615, then Alex Bregman at 701. As of recording this, still a free agent. We'll see where he ends up. And then after you took Sasaki, your next pick was Yohan Duran of the Minnesota Twins. So Joe, let's talk about the investment in Sasaki. He is your first pitcher, so you must feel pretty confident that he can lead a fantasy rotation.
Ideally, he wouldn't be my first pitcher, but I'm also banking on his price is not going to be anywhere close to this once he signs, which, it looks like it's going to be the Dodgers. But even if it's the Padres, because just forget about the Blue Jays, it's just not happening. It's going to be the Dodgers or the Padres. It's going to be a very good destination. I'm not going to do it to myself again. I can't do it, guys. I can't do it. Ohtani, Soto, how many times are we going to get hurt here in Toronto? Can't do it. So he's not coming here. If he does, great, but he's not. I think that he's going to be great right out of the gate on a great team with very few restrictions in his first year. So I think getting him at pick 90, he's going to be probably going at least 20, 30 picks higher once he gets signed. What do you guys think? 20, 30 picks higher?
What do you think, Kelly, about that? So I go ahead and I'll make my
I think he'll jump because the hype train, especially if he goes to LA, but yet, like you said, even San Diego, it will pick up so much steam. And like the second they see him in a jersey, like it's like a psychology thing for a lot of fantasy players, I think, where now you know where he is, now you can picture him. And if it is the Dodgers, then we just go right back to is it bad to have any Dodger? And yeah, I don't know how he'll be right away, but I think he'll settle in. But his draft will definitely go up. Sorry, ADP. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to fly up there. It's not going to be 614 where he went just now, that's for sure. Kevin Gossman goes at 703. Vinny Pasquantino at 704. Lawrence Butler, Welsh, out of my queue, onto your team. Let's talk about him. And, we kind of touched on Rooker, but this whole situation where the Athletics are going to be in Sacramento, look, this is a much different hitting environment, and I am cautiously optimistic for some of these guys that it's going to be a good one. What are your thoughts on Butler? You must.
It's funny. I just did this thing talking about like there are some concerns I have with Butler in general of like, he hit like under 200 or hit 200 or under for 3 months, the first 3 months of the season. But then he made this noted swing change, which then had the big breakout, big barrel numbers, hard hit numbers. I'm a little worried that's still going to kind of flip flop, but you got a little bit more of a hitter friendly environment in the minor league park. He posted big barrel and hard hit numbers, which I think creates some sustainability. He runs I don't think there's going to be like a bunch of RBIs, but it's probably the best fantasy option you could have with the Athletics, him and Rooker. So again, it pieces it all together. I probably should have gone pitching, but I thought he was just too good of a value there, especially, getting that stolen base power combo.
All right, let's continue on with the draft board here after that selection of Butler, Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez. I was hoping make it to me. He did not. Then we have Tristan Casas, Tyler Glasnow, Diaz from Houston, Bo Bichette at 7-11. Sorry, you can't collect any of the Blue Jays here, but maybe that's for the best, Joe. Then you've got Jackson Holiday going at 7-12. Jackson Holiday saying, oh boy, I'm so excited to be on this team. I haven't said that in a long time. I'm so excited to do Jackson Holiday voice again. Damn it, baseball's back. Raisel Iglesias. So getting some closer action here, Wonky Penguin. Let's talk about 7-13 Iglesias with Atlanta, one of the closers that is really safe and really effective.
I saw Felix Bautista sitting there, and I really went back and forth between the two of them because I think that he's one of the forgotten ones in a way since he was injured all of last year, and he was so good the year before. But Iglesias, he kind of has that. Yeah, it's that safety net. If I'm going to go a closer to kind of get in there, I like a guy that typically, is going to save 30 games, and that's just what he does. So that was why that's the edge I gave him. And also not Robert Suarez because I had all the West Coast pitching. I could have stayed with that, but I skipped it. So.
Where to go? Spencer Steer at 7-14. At 7-15, I selected Brenton Doyle. How a guy from a 2030 season is still floating around the 7th round, I'll never know. So yeah, and he plays in Colorado. Thank you very much. I'll take it. And Matt McLean on the buyback. He played in the AFL. Was just doing some research on him actually just recently, and power starting to come back, timing coming back. I want to see a bounce back from McLean, who was fantastic 2 years ago. There's a guy being considered for Rookie of the Year. After McLean, Justin Steele, friend of the show, big fan of Fantasy Pros, and we're big fans of Justin Steele. And then Spencer Schwellenbach to the Wonky Penguin. So another Braves pitcher building out those Braves.
Yeah, I just wrote his profile, I think like 2 days ago, and I really loved everything about it. And so I kind of made a mental note to nab him somewhere in this range just to give me that the solid strikeout numbers, and also he just was impressive last year when he finally figured it out. So I'm hoping he continues to have it figured out.
Let's hope so. Certainly a good season from him last year. All right, let's continue on with the picks after Schwellenbach, Jordan Westberg, then Mike Trout. I thought about Trout. I just couldn't pull the trigger. I just couldn't do it, Welsh. I don't know. Was that wrong? Should I have done it, Welsh? You think I should have pulled the trigger on Trout?
I'm probably going to. It's just me. That's me. I
thought about it. It's so I took the 25-year-old middle infielder with 14 steals in 2023 and half a season, or do I take Mike Trout and take my 60 games?
It's your risk tolerance. At the end of the day, the guys that are I say this a million times, the guys that screw me up are massively talented players when they're not hurt. And that's Jacob deGrom, who I won't have crazy, but I saw him in the 4th round and I was like, oh, okay, I might have done that. And then Mike Trout, they're amazing when they're on the field, but they're never on the field. So it's you just got to come to terms with that. You got to be comfortable. You can balance your roster when you lose them. It's not if, it's when you end up losing them. But yeah, I probably, what pick are we? We're in the 100.
805. Yeah, 805. So look,
this is a range.
I want to, let's earmark this. All right. And let's see, in future drafts and ADP where he starts to go. So 805 is this big 15 team mock here that we're doing. I'm not risk averse. I took Matt McLean 801. I'm going to take some risk there. There's definitely some risk there without a doubt. It's a crowded infield. Who knows, but I'm betting on the talent of the guy. Alec Boehm goes next here. Sonny Gray, Hunter Green, 2 pitchers in my queue. They're gone. Paul Goldschmidt. Look at that. Then Xavier Edwards, Joe Ryan to Welsh. Let's talk about that selection here for you. Building out that pitching staff after Crochet. He's your number 2 guy.
Yeah. I just got demolished in that round. I wanted Schwellenbach more than anything. Yes, I wanted Justin Steele, of course. I wanted, those are the guys I wanted. Everybody just demolished me with it. I still love Joe Ryan's stuff. Really, faltered on the back half of the year, but there's still great stuff. There's still good strikeouts. He didn't have the innings this year, but I think he can get back there. He's an okay number 2. I'm going to have to pick this up though. Going and getting Garrett Crochet was my balance to be able to mess around a little bit, but I'm now dropping the ball a tiny bit. So I'm going to have to put some focus on starting pitching. It's what I did in the next round as well. And I'll probably have to kind of continue looking at here because I can't fall too far behind when you have Crochet as your top dog.
Right. All right. So Joe Ryan, then Batista goes, Andres Munoz goes, Bailey Ober to Joe Orrico at the turn. We have Cody Bellinger going at 8:15, then Adolis Garcia at 9:01, and then back to you for Shane McClanahan. So I like what you're doing here. You're taking some risks on pitching, but some big payoffs here. Ober, a guy that, we've seen the teases here and there. If he can find a little bit more consistency, a guy who can really reach a new level for the Twins. And Shane McClanahan, now, again, kind of like we're talking about with the A's, new environment, not quite as pitcher friendly, most likely, but we are hoping Shane McClanahan can regain his former Cy Young style. So your thoughts on Ober and McClanahan here, Joe?
Yeah, Ober, I mean, it was a couple of really ugly blowups that people will remember. I think it was his first start of the year was like 9 earned runs, and there was 1 or 2 others that were 7 or 8, but I mean, that's hard to just remove those. But outside of those couple blowups, he was really, really solid throughout the whole season. I think he's a great asset in WHIP, which is something that kind of gets forgotten about a lot in drafts, and it's super, super important, almost impossible to come by on the waiver wire. So I like having that base. And then Shane McClanahan, there is some risk for sure coming off of the Tommy John, going to the new ballpark, but I also just think the price is too low considering what we know he's capable of. The talent there, presumably healthy. I don't think he should be going outside of the top 100 picks. So while I acknowledge there is some risk, the upside is kind of too good to pass up there in the beginning of the ninth round.
After your selection, Junior Caminero, a great value at 9:03, Robert Suarez, and then Welsh, Sandy Alcantara. So same kind of copy and paste there, just hoping that Alcantara can regain his form of yesterday.
Yeah, he was pitching before the season ended. He's an innings eater, and there's definite trade rumors that they're going to trade him midseason, and that will only improve his stock. So again, I need to start playing a little bit of upside. I have to balance upside and safety right now, and Alcantara's a good version of that.
All right. A constant balancing act for the Welsh. That's what we're looking for here. After you go ahead and took out Contra, Tyler O'Neill, Ian Happ, Ezekiel Tovar, another one of our favorite guys for last year, had a pretty good season. Seiya Suzuki at 9:09, Sal Perez at 9:10, Nolan Jones, Welsh's favorite. I kid. He hated Nolan Jones, and he was right. And I was wrong. 9:11. I'll take the L on that one. Matt Chapman. Then Wonky Penguin takes Riley Green. We'll get to that pick in a moment. Lucas Urseg goes next here for the Kansas City Royals. Then I double dip on pitching with Yankees.
Stack. Well, look at Yankee stack here.
Well, look, all the W's, baby. Dylan Cease, Blake Snell, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon. That's not a terrible pitching staff for a 15-team league. Just saying, it's not too bad. Am I afraid? Am I going to lose sleep at night over this rotation and their health? Possibly. With Fried and Rodon there, it's possible. But I could not pass up the value there. Also, I want to remind everybody, speaking of value, you can get 1 month free of BP Premium when you go ahead and download the BP app right now and use that promo code FPFREE. Baseball, right now is coming back, but there's football right now, basketball, hockey, all kinds of things, and futures baseball to be betting on. So bet with us. Use the Betting Pros app. Download it today. Use the promo code FPFREE, and you can get access to great tools like the Same Game Parlay tool, the Prop Bet Analyzer, Prize Picks, Prop Bet Cheat Sheet, all of those. Don't miss out. Download it. 30 free days of premium. It's available on iOS and on Android. Again, the code is FPFREE when you download the Betting Pros app. After Rodon, Nico Horner. So let's talk about your picks here. Xander Bogaerts and Green. Love the Riley Green value at 9:13.
Very, very happy about that. I loved him last year. I think that he's batting atop a lineup that's going to be pretty good and has some on-base skills that I really like. So yeah, I was very happy to get him this late. And then I think my outfielders are pretty stacked. I have nothing else, but I have outfield.
That's, what, as long as you have something. Well, you have, you've got some.
Sure.
So I don't think you're giving Michael King enough credit for how good he was last year. I mean, Michael King was an ace,
You've got high hopes. That's about what you've got. High hopes.
All right, so Weaver goes next, then Contreras at 10:05. Seth Lugo, no respect for Seth Lugo at 10:06. None. I'm very upset by this ADP. Anthony Volpe, 10:07. Christian Yelich at 10:08. Then Will Smith, Brandon Nimmo. Back to you. Welsh, you took a young pitcher, Jared Jones, who certainly started out like a house on fire. Second half, took some lumps there. So what are your expectations for him in 25?
Yeah, pretty big. 130 stuff plus on his fastball and slider. His fastball among all starting pitchers last year, true starting pitchers, Luke Weaver's in there, doesn't count reliever. Number one stuff plus marker for that fastball. Huge strikeout whiff rates on Jared Jones. I think he's going to take a big step this year. And I will tell you, I wanted him and Flaherty. I wanted to pair them back to back. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to go Jones with the upside. Flaherty did not make it back to me, and I don't think anything I could have done would have changed that. But Jared Jones, tons of strikeout upside. I just got to make sure and hope I'm maintaining strikeouts or my ERA. I'm a little worried that's going to get inflated.
All right. Well, obviously, I'm not worried about saves. Otherwise, I would be doing a better job of drafting those. Bryce Terang goes next, then Jake Berger. Joe Orrico selects Dylan Cruz, building that dynasty team. Hey, Joey. Huh? Is that what you got going here? Kodai Senga goes next. Jack Flaherty at 11:01 to start the 11th round, then back to Orrico for Josh Lowe at 11:02. So Cruz and Lowe building out the outfield. Joe, let's talk about it.
Building out the outfield, when you need 5 outfielders, it does wear thin pretty quickly. We're kind of approaching the cliff. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So I locked down 2 guys who I think are probably both in the 20 home run, 25 to 30 stolen base range. Josh Lowe gets the park upgrade. He was hurt, pretty much injured everything he possibly could have injured last season, but I do think that that's just randomness as opposed to he hurt the same thing 7 times. So I think he'll bounce back strong. And then Dylan Cruz had such a nice debut, even though the batting average was kind of not great. Lots of steals, up and coming lineup. So I like my outfield 3 and 4 there with Cruz and Josh Lowe.
Cruz and Josh Lowe are the picks there. Continuing on with the draft board. After that Josh Lowe selection, Kyle Finnegan, Brandon Lau, then Welsh. Who did you select here at 11:05?
Who did I select it? Oh, Luis Garcia. Needed a second baseman. I had to go
Where
back.
Am I? What's my name?
Luis Garcia is perfect for this team too. I got a lot of power. I have some batting average risk. I wanted to come back, balance that. And I did that with Luis Garcia, who's going to run higher batting averages. This year, he showed off counting stats for the first time. I always called him kind of like a CVS version of Luis Arise, and that's gone now because he's like a 2020 guy. So I'm very happy with this in my construction of having a little bit of safety on the batting average front, even if he regresses a little bit in the counting stats standpoint. And second base can really get away from you. I also got the expert little note that pops up on the draft boards, which are super cool, saying I got about a 20 pick value on him. Ooh. That experts had him about 20 spots higher than I took him. So that's always fun.
All right. Kenley Jansen next here. Brian Wu at 11:07. Jason Dominguez, one of Welsh's favorite, at 11:08. Shomaniah, 11:09. That seems like a value considering how good of a season he had last year. Will it repeat? That's the question, but in the 11th round in a 15-team league, I'm willing to find out. Nick Castellanos goes next, then Jonathan India, Kirby Yates, Lane Thomas. We're going to talk about Wonky's picks here in just a moment. She selected Lane Thomas. Then after that, Pete Crow Armstrong. Then I decided to finally dip my toes in the closer waters. Ben Joyce, Pete Fairbanks. We'll see how that works out for me. But because we have the 2 mandatory RP spots, I didn't want to wait much longer. I think this is what I've been practicing, trying to get those 2 guys. I got both of them. Let's hope that they maintain their jobs all year. Then Christopher Sanchez goes next. Ryan Walker goes next to you, Wonky Penguin. So Thomas and Walker. I passed on Walker. Was that a big mistake? Were you?
I was fairly happy about that because I was eyeballing him pretty much to fill in the other side of the relief pitching for me. But the thing I was going to talk about was how the Draft Wizard tells you like this is your biggest boost, which is why I ended up with Lane Thomas. I do not chase stolen bases in a head-to-head league, but I will add some even if he's never on base. He might steal some bases, so that's great. Maybe they'll pinch run him. I don't know. And then with Walker, like I definitely needed some ERA and whip help. And saves are just a bonus with him at that point.
All right. Continuing on with the picks as they are flying off the board here. Let's see. I gotta lose my place. All right. After Ryan Walker, you got Yandy Diaz, Nolan Arenado at 12:06, Luis Heel, Langoliers at 12:07, Colton Cowser at 12:08, Alexis Diaz, Yusei Kikuchi. I say, why not? Jordan Romano goes next. Philadelphia Phillies new closer. You think, Welsh? I think so. It seems like a lock.
The system didn't like it because the ranks haven't gone there. By the way, I got to give you credit for I would have given up on giving every single pick. The board is up on the YouTube. People can see it. I have big credit to you.
I have to. It's part of for people who listen, they want to know what the picks are. So I'm keeping it real for the peeps.
I'm giving you extra credit for it. But yeah, Jordan Romano is an early value right now. He's not ranking properly. He should be higher. It said, hey, it might be there. I didn't think he would last much higher. This is the Phillies closer. I think I got a value value on it. I think in a lot of competitive leagues, he's going to go inside the top 150. So Romano's a smash. And by the way, I just took Brandon Pfaadt. So to everybody that's going to get on me about that,
guy that I wanted.
Yeah, of course. Love me some Brandon Pfaadt in that. He's got a rotation spot locked up, power offense. And I think strikeouts are going to pop up this year. So Pfaadt and Jordan Romano, my 2 picks.
All right, let's continue on with the picks here. After you took Romano, went Gurriel, Real Muto, Orrico took Stevenson, then Ohtani goes next. You know me, I'm going to wait as long as I can for catcher. Eugenio Suarez begins the 13th round. Ryan Mountcastle to Orrico. Stevenson, Mountcastle, your 2 picks, Orrico. Let's chat.
Yeah, catcher, I put it off. As far as I felt really comfortable, because a lot of the guys left, I'm not so huge on, but Stevenson does have the great lineup still. He's a good source of batting average behind the plate, which is pretty hard to come by. So I don't mind using a 12th round pick. Generally, I'll wait as long as I can, but it is starting to dry up here. And then Ryan Mountcastle, it just comes down to really health, because I think as long as he's playing, especially with the wall coming in and left in Baltimore, he's probably pretty easily a 30 home run guy. The lineup is supposed to be really great if you look at projections, and even if you just look at it with your own eyes, it's going to be a good lineup in Baltimore. And I think Mountcastle fits into the middle there. Could be a 30 and 100 guy in round 13, which I'll take every day.
So after that selection is done, Michael Toglia goes. Francisco Alvarez, you took Pfaadt. We just discussed that. Ryan Pepiot goes after that at 1306, 1307. Cronenworth, Reese Hoskins, Yu Darvish, Tanner Houck, Camilo Doval, then Tanner Scott. Where will he land? I hope the New York Mets. We'll see. Robbie Ray at 1313. Then Reynaldo Lopez at the turn. Again, I'm not risk adverse. I'm going to throw a dart at Brandon Woodruff because he would be my 5th starter. And if he is anything close to what he used to be, that could be great. Josh Young, I needed some help there. At the third base spot, I'm going to again lean towards the youth here. It was between him and Paredes. I was going back and forth. At the end of the day, I took a shot on Josh Young. We'll see if it works out or not. We'll find out. Luis Arraez goes next. Earmuffs, Welsh. I know you're a big fan. Mason Wynn also to the Wonky Penguins. So Robbie Ray and Mason Wynn. Robbie Ray's a guy that I tend to go after. I'm a little surprised, Wonky, that you are dipping your toes in the pool of the Robbie Ray in 2025. Are you ready for all those strikeouts and all those walks?
You know how I just said that I drafted Walker to help with my ERA and WHIP, and I immediately was like, how can I undo that? And so I did. Yeah, and even though I promised my fantasy baseball therapist that I would never draft Robbie Ray again, I think that it has been enough years now that I'm willing to ride that train and then begin to complain about it as soon as possible.
There you go. I think that's exactly what isn't that what therapy is for? Just to complain about stuff. George Springer goes at 1404, then Francis at 1405, Evan Carter 1406, Burleson, nice value here at 1407, Ranger Suarez, Shane Baz, Rafaela, then Jock Peterson to the Welsh cagey pick. I'll let Welsh make his selection next. Michael Kopech in that battle for the closer job. JJ Bleday. It's a fun name to say, and pretty good second half from him, too. Zach Eflin goes to Orrico next. Isaac Paredes off the board. Estevez off the board at 1501, beginning the 15th round. Gleyber Torres. So Eflin, Torres, Orrico. Let's discuss your 2 picks. Another pitcher and Gleyber Torres in a new spot. I think there's a good landing spot for him. Out of the pressure of New York, what do you think?
I like it. I mean, Torres is going to play every day. Even though the ballpark isn't maybe ideal for a right-handed hitter where you're trying to maybe hope for 20-plus home runs, it might be a little bit hard to come by, but it's an up-and-coming lineup. Detroit's gotten better and better every year. He should slot somewhere in the middle, maybe even if we're lucky in the top third of that order. So I like him, especially because second base, we have reached the cliff, folks. We're pretty much at the point where there's nothing really that great left. And then Zach Eflin, if you guys have watched or listened to me for years, you know how I feel about Zach Eflin, especially like I mentioned earlier with the whip. You're getting a guy who can still give you like a 110 to 115 whip. At this point of the draft, I've kind of punted pitching, so really happy to get Eflin here.
Okay, Eflin, Joe Orrico, happy. Everything's possible. Continuing with the next picks after that, let's recap Welsh's 2 selections. Dalton Varsho goes, then TJ Friedel, Walker Buehler. Welsh, he is now a Boston Red Sox. So Peterson in Texas, Buehler in Boston. What are your expectations for those 2 guys?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great season, but when I say regular season, playoffs was a real big bounce back. We were starting to see that velo back up. We were starting to see that original Walker Buehler. There's just a lot invested. I think this is a really good landing spot, great offense, division, kind of tough, so you're going to have that good stuff, pitcher, not to say that like the NL West, I suppose, isn't, but it's like, every other day you're going up against the Yankees, and then you're going up against Baltimore, and then it's a rough spot. But I'm going to bounce and buy into that playoff version of Walker Buehler, and the investment's so low, it's outside the top 200 here, and I think there's a lot of upside. And that was kind of what I was looking for with some of these pieces. I don't need to play it too safe. I wanted some upside plays because I waited so long between that top pitcher and then getting into like my SP2-3.
Nathaniel Lowe goes next after, Nathaniel Lowe, then Cutter Crawford, then Nate Eovaldi, Ha-Seong Kim, Porter Hodge, Jorge Soler at 15-11, JD Martinez at 15-12, still a free agent there. Max Muncy at 15-13 to the Penguin. She's on the clock right now. Jesus Luzardo, 15-14. That's a good value. I went and double dipped in the outfield again. Helio Ramos and Cedric Mullins. I want to take some more stolen bases. This is Roto. And look, there's not a lot of guys out there I feel good about that give me power and speed at this juncture in the draft. Mullins is one of them. Batting average could hurt me a little bit. Could he get squeezed? Maybe. So I like the pick. I don't love it. We'll see how it plays out. Tommy Edman at 1602. Then Penguin back to you for Mackenzie Gore, Max Muncy, Mackenzie Gore. Let's discuss these two selections here, both maybe on the opposite ends of their career.
I believe that they are. And I'm looking at my infield, and I do not like anything about it, but I went with Muncy, just again, back to the whole Dodgers thing. And also he has some pop. If his elbow stays in place, then I think that would be okay. I did like Gore toward the end of the year. I feel like he has some good strikeout numbers. If he can, it's always about like kind of keeping the walks down, keeping him in ball games maybe a little bit later, but I'm okay with him just as like at this point in the draft. I liked him the best on the board for pitching.
Certainly makes sense. After Kelly's selections, we continue on. Let's see who is next after you. Mackenzie Gore, then Jose Barrios, Taylor Ward at 1605, Christopher Morel, Andres Jimenez, Bryson Stott, Bobby Miller, Ronel Blanco, David Bednar goes at 1611. After Bednar gets selected, I just saw somebody go off the board that I wanted. Michael Garcia goes next. And then we have Taj Bradley, Nick Pivetta, Evan Phillips at 615. Then Jordan Walker at 1711. Orrico, you took Pivetta and then went pitching again with Clark Schmidt. Schmidt was a guy in my queue because I was trying to collect all the Yankees, but couldn't get them all. Let's talk about these two pitchers and your expectations for 25.
Yeah, I needed to build out some more pitching depth with Pivetta. Still not sure where that's going to be. I actually think he probably does end up in Toronto. I mean, they'll end up getting him at the end because he's a Canadian, because there's nobody else available, whatever the reason is. I don't know why. I feel like he ends up in Toronto. I know that's super analytical right there. But I think the strikeouts are still very good. The underlying numbers are all very good. It's just that home run problem. If he could shake that, even just curb it a little bit, he could be really, really great. So I'm not expecting a ton in round 16, but as starting pitching depth, him and Clark Schmidt, I think there's been some worry that maybe Clark Schmidt doesn't have a rotation spot because the Yankees are a little crowded. There'll be injuries. There'll be something with Stroman. He'll start 20 plus times at least. So as starting pitching depth goes, Clark Schmidt and Nick Pivetta is pretty good. Round 16, round 17.
Certainly does feel like that. All right, I am up next here, continuing to take some shots. I have a question for you. Christian Encarnacion Strand, still on the board, a guy that we were very high on a couple years ago. Welsh, where are we at with his value in 2025?
I think you're in a good value range. I walked away from the AFL unimpressed with Strand. He's kind of playing all over the field. He still has, big hard hit, big barrel numbers. It's an incredible ballpark. If you're playing every single day, it looks good. But, I remember even asking him, like, how do you like the outfield? I said, how's the outfield going? And he looked at me, he's like, not good. Like, he does. Like, so, like, I think that stuff is in his head about where he's playing and stuff. I think it's a good risk. We're in a territory where take upshot plays here. I mean, like, you want your core team, you want your core pieces, but don't be afraid to take some risks here. And Strand has 30 home run upside if things start to work out and he's hitting lefties and stuff like that, simply off of that ballpark. So I'm totally cool with if that's what you did and pulled the trigger on him.
I did not. I just
okay. Well, good. Thoughts. He's a horrible player then, by the way.
So there you go. I didn't take it. All right. So Clark Schmidt goes, Michael Wacha goes, Giancarlo Stanton, Welsh, you took Bednar, and then Kerry Carpenter. Carpenter lasted a little bit longer than I thought he would, Welsh.
Yeah, thank God, because outfield is just another one of those that, like, I feel like you got to be aggressive on, especially in 5 outfielder early, like these guys have been talking about. I wasn't, so I felt like I was kind of tapering back. I took Jock Peterson, who maybe doesn't get platoony, but he's just just such a ridiculous hitter against righties. And in that lineup, he's going to do great. And I just needed more outfield help. And Kerry Carpenter's one of those 18 homers in just under 90 games last year. Big power output potential. Hopefully this, team is going to be one of those big breakouts for this year. So I'm happy with Kerry Carpenter as my outfield 4, but I'm happy in retrospect. He would have been a better outfielder 5, but he did
My
last.
pitching queue got obliterated. Nick Lodolo gone. Rengifo then goes, then Bo Naylor, Torkelson, Byron Buxton, Luis Severino I was looking at, then Austin Wells goes, Soderstrom goes, Connor Norby goes. I was thinking about him. Instead, I ended up with Colt Keith at the 17-15 pick. And then, speaking of taking shots, let's see what Jeffrey Springs is. I don't like when Tampa gets rid of pitchers typically. I like when they acquire pitchers, so I don't feel warm and fuzzy about it. But let's throw a dart. Joe Musgrove, speaking of darts, goes next. Carlos Correa at 1803. Wonky Penguin. Look at this. Carlos Correa sighting. Remember when he was like a second-round pick? Those were the days.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, it told me he was my biggest boost, so I muted myself and I asked for Draft Wizard if it was sure it was my biggest boost, and it said yes. So then I drafted him. But I think I need a little bit of average help, and he tends to bat for average, even if he bats for nothing else. When he plays. Sorry.
When he plays. Yeah. Well, the caveat is accepted here. After you took that selection, let me just scroll through and then we'll bring up the picks here. We have Carlos Correa, then Spencer Arrighetti. At 1805, Shane Bieber. We'll see how he comes back from the TJ surgery. Chris Bassett at 1806. Justin Martinez, Drew Rasmussen, Tyler Fitzgerald, Gavin Williams, Parker Meadows, Mitch Keller, and then Merle, our friend Merle Kelly, goes finally. DJ Hertz, friend of the show. I helped him all year. Love DJ. Great guy. DJ Hertz, constantly listening to the football podcast. We love him here on the show.
I heard from DJ a lot. I didn't hear from DJ towards the back end of the season, so maybe I gave him a bad football thing. But yeah, I don't know. He was an avid fantasy footballer.
Big fantasy football guy. Jeremy Pena, 1815. Then Jung Ho Lee at 1901. Lars Nootbaar, Joe Orrico. You took the Nootbaar from Welsh. I don't know how he feels about that. I don't know if he's still on Nootbaar after all these years, but DJ Hertz, big strikeout potential. Lars Nootbaar, a guy that I think we're all waiting to see, maybe realize his full potential. Your thoughts?
If Nootbaar can stay on the field and if the Cardinals just put him at the top of the order, specifically against righties, then great things are going to happen. The on-base skills, fantastic. You get the power speed mix. The lineup is good enough where, we're talking round 19 here in a 15-team or fifth outfield. I think a lot of people will take him as a bench piece. Things could really break right for him. And DJ Hertz, I didn't even know he's a FantasyPros guy, but that's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But on top of that, great strikeouts. I mean, the whole Nationals pitching staff actually was a lot better than you might have thought last year. Trevor Williams made some strides. Mitchell Parker came up and made some noise. Mackenzie Gore made some strides, specifically down the stretch. So I like the organization. I like what he showed right off the gate, and right off the bat, I should say. And he's somebody that I think I'm going to have a lot of this year.
Okay. Welsh, let's recap your picks here. You made a few since last we chatted. Jackson Jobe goes next, then Brendan Donovan. You took Parker Meadows and Roman Anthony, pardon me. I almost said Anthony Rendon for a second and I was going to scream at you. You took Roman Anthony. It's a much better pick. I guarantee you he'll play more games. So here we go. Welsh, we were just talking about him, seen as many people as the, big time number one prospect. Are you taking him to trade him or are you taking him to play him?
No, I mean, we're drafting bench. Sometimes in these mocks, we don't do bench. If we're doing bench in here in the 270s, absolutely. We're in the same general vicinity of a lot of these players. So, I got Parker Meadows as my fifth outfielder, so I've kind of locked that down. Power speed combo. I'm really hurting myself in batting average, but why would I not take the upside of a guy like Roman Anthony? There could be trade bait. The hit skills in Boston might really pay out, and this is a great price. If he were to get the go that he's going to break camp, Roman Anthony is going to move up into he'll push the top 100. So this is just getting in on that really, really early.
All right, getting in on it early. Let's talk about the next picks here. Ryan Weathers, man, he lasted a long time. I'm surprised you didn't take him. Eloy Jimenez, Craig Kimbrell, Liam Hendricks, Luke Raley, Clayton Kershaw, Kumar Rocker, Brian Bayo to you, Wonky. Why don't you talk about that while I make my picks?
Yeah, I had him last year, and he would do kind of the either blow up or he would have a really nice start type of thing. And I feel like he's going to have some growth this season. And I feel like he's going to pitch a lot of innings because they've kind of worked him up in that regard. So at this point in the draft, that's kind of what I'm looking for, like who might possibly throw 160, 170 innings. So I don't necessarily have to go out on the waivers looking for that, because that won't exist in a 15 team. No. So that was my thought.
There you go. After that selection, Gabriel Moreno goes next. Then I took Nolan Chanal and Nestor Cortez, who does not pitch for the Yankees anymore, but Yankee adjacent, was close enough. Now he's in Milwaukee. We'll see how he does. James Outman goes next. Wonky, what are you doing with your next pick here at 2003?
Oh, I don't know. I'm torn between three people, and Jake McCarthy, Willie Castro, and Jesus Sanchez. And once you're in this territory, you just kind of got to go with it. So I'm going to go with Willie Castro, because I like to have one guy that has a lot of different positional eligibility, and also because I saw the Twins play the Guardians last summer, and that was one of the games Bailey Ober got lit up, and Willie Castro actually came in, was the only Twin to pitch a 1-2-3 inning.
It's the small joys in life. That's what it is.
It is the small joys in life.
After Willie Castro, Starling Marte, Zach Geloff, Dansby Swanson, Michael Busch, Victor Robles, Jeff Hoffman. See if he can pass a physical somewhere. Then we have Christian Encarnacion Strong going right before Christian Encarnacion Strand, going right before Trevor Story to you, Welsh.
Yeah, I didn't care about that. I was happy with the Trevor Story, but what I wasn't happy about was three guys in my queue in this round. I wanted Michael Busch. I wanted Dansby Swanson. I mean, just value at this point. Michael Busch. And then I didn't think anyone was Jeff Hoffman. Like Jeff Hoffman, I know maybe his arm and a couple orgs were giving bad markers, but he's going to close this year. So I was going to take like a fourth guy just to kind of really lock that down, but it just went right in front of me. So I pivoted back. I just think I'm going to have a lot of Trevor Story. There's 2020 potential. Guy can't stay on the field, but now he's kind of a bench piece that I can kind of circulate through my roster. It's really good value in like the 300s.
You're up again, so you might as well walk us through your selection, or you want me to recap?
No, I think I know exactly where I'm going to go, because we're at the stage where we got like 4 bench spots, and maybe are pending, if you guys have already filled out your major roster. I probably don't need to do this, but I think there's a big tier difference. I'm going to take my catcher in Sean Murphy. The rest of the catchers are fine. Like there's like Kyber Ruiz, Connor Wong, I think is still out there, but I think Sean Murphy is like in a tier right above. There's no Travis d'Arnaud. It's a great offensive lineup. They're probably going to bring in Drake Baldwin to maybe kind of compete, but I think Murphy's got an opportunity maybe for a few more at bats. We know there's some big power potential in there, and then you're going to get, Ronald Acuna higher in the lineup for run potential. So I liked getting this as my catcher for Sean Murphy. If he would have gone, I'd have just waited to my last pick and just taken the last guy.
So just to recap again, Trevor Story goes to Welsh at 2011, then Esteury Ruiz at 2012, Andy Pages, who I really liked. I wanted to get him. 2013, he's gone. Estrada to Orrico, Chas McCormick to end the 20th round to begin the 21st, Jorge Polanco, then Eric Fetty. So let's talk about Estrada and Fetty, Orrico.
Yeah, Thairo Estrada, I don't know if I've ever been more wrong on a player than I was about Thairo last year. I thought he was going to steal a lot, new manager, proficient in stealing, blah, blah, blah. He stole like 4 bases. He was terrible, but going to Colorado, good place to kind of revitalize your career. So I'm taking a chance on him there. Ideally, he wouldn't be in my starting lineup. He's currently as a util, but that's kind of splitting hairs at the end of a 15-teamer. Don't really mind it. And then Eric Fetty was just so solid last year. I think that he took some things from the KBO, really was able to translate them back to Major League Baseball. Is he going to be as good as he was last year? Probably not, but still a solid pitcher with a good defense behind him here as some bench depth.
All right, I am making my selections, and we are flying through the rest of the draft. We're at a couple rounds left here. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Ryan McMahon goes at 2103, a nice value there. Jake McCarthy at 2104. We talked about Sean Murphy, then Jose Caballero, Masataka Yoshida, Cabrian Hayes, Garrett Mitchell, Jesus Sanchez, Davison De Los Santos at 2111, Heimer Candelario, Ryan O'Hearn, Sal Frelick, Connor Wong to me at the catcher spot, and Trevor McGill, who I think is going to be closing here for Milwaukee. Jack Sawinski goes next. Wonky Penguin, you are on the clock after selecting O'Hearn. Who is next for you?
Then my next one is basically a different version of O'Hearn, but it's Matt Wallner from the Twins. I think he's got 20 home run potential pretty easily. And again, at this point in the draft, it's like, okay, I guess I'll just go with a bunch of switch hitters who are going to be in platoons.
Hey, well, why not? But that's a good value there, and there's upside. Matt Shaw goes next. Abreu, then Puck, Kelenic, still kicking around. Jared Kelenic, you got to give him credit. He's like, just can't get rid of him. Nick Gonzalez, you have John Kenzie, Noel, then Henry Davis, Justin Verlander, To the Welsh, do my eyes deceive me? You finally got a picture of your own age on your team, Welsh.
You know what? We found out. I am younger than Justin Verlander. Shout out to Scott Bogman.
You're not making this selection better.
He celebrated his birthday yesterday. We found out he is older than Verlander. I'm still younger than Verlander.
There you go.
Verlander had a horrible season and things do not look good. I'm hoping for some small revitalization. It's an incredible ballpark for him to be in, and I'm hoping that's going to carry some of this. I needed some innings. I'm hoping to pick up some wins. I'm not like crazy optimistic about this, but maybe a slight bounce back, but there's some horrible trends with him. I just wasn't in love with the pitchers that are kind of currently out there.
Happy birthday, Boggs.
Yeah, that's right. Our good pal Scott Bogman here. Next here after, let's see, Justin Verlander, still reeling from that. Joe Adell, Josh Smith, Kyle Manzardo, the man-child, and then Aroldis Chapman goes to Team 1 to begin the 23rd round. Joey Ortiz, Ryan Nelson, so Manzardo and Nelson. So, Joe, they moved on in the offseason, but they still brought back Carlos Santana. So what does that mean for Manzardo this year?
He was so good down the stretch in September, especially. He started hitting for power, started hitting for average. It seemed like things started to click. I'm betting on him having more of a full-time role than maybe we're expecting and maybe some of the projections are expecting. I think the talent is still through the roof, and I think they will find a way to play him more than a lot of people are thinking. And then Ryan Nelson, the second half was so good. Welsh will be more
love that
able to speak on Ryan Nelson because he might be not currently in the rotation, but I feel like he's still going to end up making kind of in the similar vein to Clark Schmidt. He's still going to be like a 20-plus start guy, I think, right?
It looks like it. I mean, they're going to trade Jordan Montgomery. And once Jordan Montgomery is traded, that's going to open up the possibilities here. But that's the move that they got to make, and they will.
Okay, after those selections, you have Pavin Smith, Griffin Jacks. Welsh, you took Reese Olson, who had a bit of an up-and-down season. So what are your expectations for him going forward?
Yeah, again, there's, team context. I think they're moving in the right direction. He showed some really good signs in some spots this season. I think there's some good strikeout potential with Reese Olson. This is like, bench starting pitcher. We're in the territory where if it doesn't work out early on in the season, boom, you're gone and you become a streaming spot. So that's what I looked at with him. Same with Verlander, to be honest with you. Like if he's just like, oh, it's 18% strikeout rate again, and it's a 5 ERA. See ya. We're going to go to streaming. We'll stream guys like Ryan Nelson if they're floating out there, which
that's right. Max Kepler, Cade Smith, Matt Strom, then Brandon Marsh, Hunter Goodman, Chris Martin. We have Jacob Young, then David Peterson, look at that. One of my guys there. Jason Foley. Then I selected Matthew Boyd, who just signed with the Cubs. Can he stay healthy? We'll see. But again, just building out the roster of bodies. And then I had to take a shot on Yuri Perez. At some point in the second half, I'd like to see him healthy and making starts every fifth day. The talent is off the chart. Heston Kjerstad goes next. So Wonky Penguin, let's talk about your pick at 2403 and then talk about David Peterson, who certainly had some really good postseason moments last year. And as a lefty, you imagine is going to get at least a shot here in this Mets rotation.
Well, the one I'm drafting now is this is what we call a dart throw. I went with Chris Bryant mostly because I was running out of time. And, again, it's the same thing where if he can stay
I just want to say you've got Carlos Correa and Chris Bryant on the same team. This team would have been amazing in 2018. It would have been
I know.
Just
and I thought that like maybe we should just throw it back for a second. But no, with David Peterson again, this was a Draft Wizard pick. Like it said, this was my biggest boost. He had probably more strikeouts than anyone else, which is the one category that I'm kind of attempting to stay up in the top, which you can check. And I've been looking at it and I've just been ignoring WHIP entirely. So that's where Peterson came from. And then with Bryant, I was just like, you know what? I'm a Cubs fan. Let's throw it back to 2015. That would be even more fun. So
there you go. Actually, I have to stand corrected. 2017 would be the last time both of them had a good, healthy season. So it's only 8 years ago. What's 8 years? Trevor Larnach, then Jacob Wilson, Jeff McNeil, Jake Fraley, Andrew Benintendi, Will Benson, Isaiah Kiner Falefa. Then we have Eduardo Rodriguez going to the Welsh. Welsh, you think he can stay healthy in 2025?
I'm crossing my fingers that, there's a couple of these that are out there, but if he does, we know there's going to be a huge value on Eduardo. He can at least be SP4 on a team if you get to that original side of it. And hopefully he spent most of the time just chilling out last year. So hopefully he's healthy for this year.
All right, Michael Conforto, David Fry, Nueve Marte to Orrico, Vierling, then Victor Scott in the last round, David Festa, another young pitcher here for Minnesota. So Marte, another guy with a lot of upside coming off that suspension year. Joe, what are your expectations for him?
There really are no expectations. It's just like he's my last position player on my bench. He might be fantastic. He might have been aided more than we would have hoped by the PEDs. I don't really know. I honestly don't really know. He was dreadful down the stretch, hoping that he can bounce back this year. If he doesn't, he's an easy cut at this point. And then David Festa is another guy in the same vein as DJ Hurts. Debuted, looked really good. The numbers below the surface are just fantastic. I know some of the surface numbers weren't quite as appealing. But especially after those first couple of rocky starts, he really settled in. So hoping that he is the number 3, 4, maybe 5 starter in Minnesota, but no pressure. Just somebody you can start 25 times and do good things for you.
Okay, recapping just the final picks here as we are at the end of the very final round. Siri, Verdugo, then Tobias Myers to Welsh, Chad Green, Melendez, Kyle Isbell. Then we have Davis Schneider, Clay Holmes, Johnny DeLuca. How you doing? Robert Garcia, Reed Detmers, Brian Dela Cruz, and I took Jesse Winker last. So maybe a little power and speed.
The grade, I laughed out loud at the grade that I got. And just take
and what is it? Can I C minus? I got a B minus.
Further. I got word. So the thing that I love, I've always loved about it. It's like when I first started working with Fantasy Pros, even before I was ever full time with them, was like I loved this board. I love the projections stand out, the insights. It's my favorite thing. I love seeing the people that like the drafts, and I knew there were going to be things it wasn't going to like, but I got a D minus, probably because of the Roman Anthony. It was brutal. I will say this though, I got a D minus. Though I ranked top 5 in stolen bases and saves, I also was high in homers in a couple categories. It's all over the place about some stacks and what I could have done here and there. But you guys want to take a guess at the expert that loved my draft more than anybody?
You.
Kelly, what do you think?
I was going to say Mayor.
I'm going to guess me. I'm going to guess
me. Of course, me. Brandon fought on the team. Of course, I loved it more than anybody. Mike Mayer did love it, the third most, as did Chris Towers. But the haters, a lot of people I've done shows with and been hosted. Scott White hates me. Pisapia hates me. Kelly, you hate me. And Andy Barron's not big fans.
It's not good when me and Scott White hate you. That's bad.
No, I don't like
Chris Towers liked my draft more than anybody else, so that feels pretty good. I finished at 6. Funky Penguin, the winner amongst us. She finished 3rd in this draft. Joe Orrico finished 11th, right ahead of Welsh. You just snuck it in, Orrico. That's got to feel pretty good, right?
As long as I came out ahead of Welsh after he took Gary Crochet from me, I'll take it.
Kirby likes my draft as well because I took Brian Reynolds, Randy Rosarena, and Carlos Rodon. What we're talking about here too is the analysis on the back end here. It tells you the steals. It tells you, hey, if I had taken Corbin Carroll, I would have been X number of spots higher. And these are the things that you can really start to hone your draft strategy. And that's why you were using Draft Wizard here for all these drafts. Helio Ramos, Chanel, and Connor Wong were all steals for me. Kelly, since you're the big winner here, I mean, what are we talking about? You should be talking about your draft here. Looking back at your roster, do you feel like you came away with a team that you feel good about for 2025?
I mean, it says, with my stack, you'll be cheering for Minnesota with your Carlos Correa, Willie Castro, and Matt Wallner stack, to which I say, really? you think I'm going to cheer for that stack? However, I did like I liked my drafts more than everyone else, and it said I'd be in the top 5 in 5 different things. So, I mean, I'll take it. I drafted some players that I obviously don't love, but in a 15 team, I think everyone gets to the point where they have to. But I really like how I stacked my outfield. And like you said, Michael King as an SP1 is pretty, I'm fine with that. So
yeah, the outfield of Tatis Jr., Duran, Brent Rooker, Riley Green, Lane Thomas, pretty darn good. The infield, Naylor, Bogarts, Mason Wynn, Max Muncy, Soderstrom, and the pitching staff here, Michael King, Yamamoto, Iglesias, Walker, Schwellenbach, Robbie Ray, Gore, Bayo. I mean, it's a good group here. For my roster here, Connor Wong, Vladdy, Matt McClain, Lindor, Josh Young, Brenton Doyle. Then you've got Brian Reynolds, Rosarena, Helio Ramos, Mullins, Nolan Chanel, and then Dylan Cease, Blake Snell, Fairbanks, Joyce, Max Fried, Rodon. A little bit of risk here. Springs, Woodruff, a little upside, little risk. We'll see what happens here. Colt Keith, Trevor McGill, Cortez, Boyd, Yuri Perez, Winker. Let's go through the Joe Orrico team here, building for the year 2028, just like the Blue Jays. Tyler Stevenson, Ryan Mountcastle, Gleyber Torres, Bobby Witt Jr., Austin Riley, Jackson Merrill, Wyatt Langford, Cruz, Lowe, Lars Nootbaar, Manzardo, and then the pitching staff: Ober, McClanahan, Devin Williams, Duran, Sasaki, Eflin, Pivetta, Clark Schmidt, Noelve Marte. You know, for me, this roster, as we're looking through it, Joe, what stands out is, you know, you took the risk on Sasaki, but then you backed it up there with McClanahan, who could end up as your SP1.
He could end up as my SP1, or he could end up back on the shelf. That is the risk I've taken here. If I'm going to go back and look at it through the 2020 vision, I would probably not have waited as long on pitching. I think Welsh just kind of screwed me up with taking Crochet, and then I didn't want to reach too far on DeGrom, and then it just kind of messed me up. So that is another thing that people should know. Like, Welsh knows me. So he knew I was going to take. So know the people in your draft room, because there's certain pockets where if I don't take this guy here, he's going to be gone, etc. So just another thing to keep in mind. But yeah, I think I waited a little bit too long on pitching, even though the scores were pretty good on the pitching side. I probably shouldn't have waited as long as I did.
All right. And Welsh, Sean Murphy, Christian Walker at first, Garcia, Ellie De La Cruz, Rafael Devers, James Wood. Ooh-wee, that's a good grouping there. Lawrence Butler, Jock Peterson, Parker Meadows, Kerry Carpenter, Trevor Story, and then Garrett Crochet is your ace. Joe Ryan, Clase, Bednar, Alcantara, Jared Jones, Brendan Fott, Walker Buehler. This is a big upside pitching staff here, Welsh.
Yeah, haters. Just a bunch of haters. It's a good team. I like the construction. I think there's some question marks in here, but like, I love my infield. I think my outfield is going to end up working. My pitching staff, maybe there's some questions, but again, it's big upside. I think there's streamability. But again, like, I'm going to hit waivers in here. Yeah, haters is a good team.
Well, it's officially baseball season. Welsh is unhappy. Kelly Kirby's beating us. And Joe Orrico is still in his darkness retreat. So what do you think?
The light, Joe. Come in, please.
What do you think, those of you watching on the YouTube? Comment below which one of us has the best team. That's what we want to hear from you. Was it Orrico? Was it Welsh? Was it me? Was it Kelly Kirby, like the Draft Wizard says? And run your own mock drafts right now. Again, fantasypros.com/draft wizard. It's fast, it's free, it's fun. It's a way to get prepared for the MLB season. Head over to fantasypros.com for all the latest articles and rankings. Fantasy baseball season is quickly approaching. Go get your fantasy black book too out on Amazon, with all of us contributing to it. The whole team is here. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on for everyone named Joe, Welsh, and the Wonky Penguin. We'll see you next time, kids.